Wednesday, and it's time for the live chat. The topic tonight, albums that don't sound like their covers. So the panel's here, we're ready to go, so let's get started. Hey, welcome everybody. We are live and it's Wednesday. The panel's here and the chat room is already filled up. We've got 30 people watching. That's a good start, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
But the topic tonight, albums that don't sound like their covers. So we're flipping it from last week. We're doing just the opposite. So tonight we have Jamie Laszlo, Todd Evans, Peter Kern, of course, Martin and myself. And like I said, I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming on. This is going to be fun. And we do want to hear from you. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to do 3, and 4, and we're just going to go around. And I'm going to start off with Jamie Laszlo. Mr. Laszlo, it's nice to see you tonight. How are you?
It's nice to see all you guys tonight.
Yeah. So get started. Let's do it.
My number one was the first album I thought of when we talked about doing this. And I know I've been on record saying that I do not like this record. And Martin Popoff's on record saying it's one of the best ever. I hate to keep going back to it. But I'm going to go with The Clash, London Calling. Now, here's the story. I got a story behind a few of these. And this is the story with this one. 1988, I think, and a few years after that, Rolling Stone would do their best albums ever. Mm-hmm. This was always number one, and I'm thinking, what am I missing out on? I mean, I know Rock the Casbah. What am I missing out on? And I saw the cover. I said, this must just kick ass. This must be like the Who on steroids. This must be in your face. At the time, I thought it was a guitar, not a bass player doing that to his bass. I'm like, this must be guitar in your face and feedback, and all this is gonna kick my ass. And then I got it, and I'm like, yeah. Does this rock? Is this rocking for some people? Because it sure as shit ain't rocking for me. And you know, I hear the bass, I hear the horns, I hear the vocals. It's got to have guitar to rock for me. And you really got to struggle to hear the guitar on some of these songs. It's almost like it's not there. So, yeah, I was taken aback the first time I heard this based on that album cover.
That's a choice.
And this one, I texted you guys and I said, hey, why don't we do the opposite next week, the following week? And this is the album I was listening to that give me that little spark in my brain. Ascension by John Coltrane. Now, I recently got this album, and I didn't know much about it going in. And it's John Coltrane just kind of chilling on a bench, right? He's got his tenor sax. I'm thinking this is going to be like smooth jazz, all white background, just something to sit on a bench and chill to. No, he should be throwing that bench through a wall. This music is violent. There should be a subgenre called violent jazz. And this should be like the album that started it all almost. This is crazy music. What is this? Like 1960?
66.
66? This was probably like death metal in its day. People heard this and go, that's crazy. What the hell is that noise?
I think you might have a point.
Yeah, I think it was death metal in its day.
Mm-hmm.
And this next one's interesting because I really didn't know what to expect going in. But here's the story. I worked in a record store, National Record Mart at the Northway Mall outside of Pittsburgh in 1988. And we got in the promo cassette of the first Masters of Reality album. And I looked at it, and look, you had 3 categories. I was like named after a Black Sabbath album, more or less, right? And I said, look, well, it's either going to be hair metal, or it's going to be like heavy metal, like Priest or Maiden, or it's going to be something more extreme that I wasn't listening to at the time. Those are 3 choices in 1988, more or less. And I looked at it and I saw the back and I said, oh, I bet you this is going to be like epic heavy metal, kind of like King Diamond without the annoying vocals, or maybe like Halloween or something like that. And I put it on and it was unlike anything I've heard at the time before. Now these bands are a dime a dozen, these like stoner rock bands. But before Queens of the Stone Age, this sounds exactly like Queens of the Stone. I think Chris Goss, the leader of this band, produced a few Queens of the Stone Age albums. I think he played on a few, but he really kind of did a sound that nobody was doing at the time. And I didn't know if I hated it or loved it at the time, but I've grown to love this album now. So yeah, I didn't know what to expect, really, more or less.
It almost looks like a prog album cover to me.
Yeah, it looks like a Marillion almost kind of album, something like that too.
Enya.
Enya, yes.
All right, that's my 3.
Super.
All right, nice.
Awesome.
Hang on, let's check in. I'm forgetting my duties here. Let's check in with the comments. We've got DC Tune Time says
Mirage,
it
does look like
Mirage.
Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah. The Osabisa albums look proggier than they are. Good one. Pink Floyd, Adam Hart, Mother, says D Rocker. Let's see. Heart self-titled cover looks like a new wave band. Yeah, that's a good one. Pink Bubbles Go Ape doesn't give off any power metal vibes. Absolutely, says Logan Collins. Excellent one. Accept Breaker. Accept Balls to the Wall. Nirvana's Nevermind. Is it Tranquil Lullabies for Expecting Moms? Nice one. Matthew, excellent. Velvet Underground Loaded, great album. Dated Dumb album cover. Status Quo, If You Can't Stand the Heat. Yes, very hot looking album cover and not a very hot album. Iron Butterfly Scorching Beauty looks pretty proggy. Every Molly Hatchet record. All right, let's turn over to Todd.
Okay, so this one's kind of complicated because there are parts of it that look like this, but this is Peter Cetera's first solo album, 1981. Now, it got maybe one or two songs that are pretty heavy, and they would surprise you with how heavy they are. But the whole album doesn't sound like this.
Yeah,
it's not really Peter Cetera rocking out. So I picked. This is the first one I thought of. Not a bad album, but most of it's pretty sophisticated, mellow, laid back stuff. Even though there's a couple of rocket tracks, for Peter Cetera anyway.
That reminds me of the look of the Randy Hansen album. Do you remember that one where he's glowing all molten red? And I thought, oh, it's gonna be so heavy, but it was kind of interesting.
This record did not sell at all. This record didn't sell at all. Well,
I didn't know it existed.
Well, it didn't sell at all.
Yeah, no, it didn't.
It's really not a very good cover. No.
The next one I've picked on before, and I'm sorry to have to pick on it again, but John Cougar Mellencamp, This is a pretty rockin' record. Crumbling Down, Pink House's Authority song, play guitar. But I'm not really sure what's going on here. His head is too big for his body, so it makes it look like he's a little guy. And, we talked about on another show about Whenever We Wanted, and it's kind of a rockin' album, and it looks like he looks like a rock star on it. This one, not so much. But, and then my third one, this one, I really wasn't sure about this one, but I decided to go with it. I think, is a terrible cover. This is Todd Rundgren's Liars. And this is a really, really deep record. It says in here, all of these songs are about a paucity of truth. At first, they may seem to be about other things, but that is just a reflection of how much dishonesty we have accepted in our daily lives. We are raised from birth to believe things that cannot be proven or that will be plainly not true. A lot of things are examined in here: religion, relationships, sexuality, and this is the cover of it's Todd Rundgren. I assume, I don't know whether he's supposed to be a child or whether he's the parent stealing the child's Easter candy, but
the Japanese cover's way better than this.
Is it? Yeah. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, check it out.
Looks like a TikTok clip.
It does. But this is a really good album. And it goes up the levels of, if I was to rank Todd Rundgren albums, this is creeping up. And it's probably right around 10 or 11, or maybe even a little bit higher. But what a strange cover.
Yeah, horrible. All right, cool.
All right, let's see. D Rockers brought up UFO Phenomenon. Ashley Geisler, Celtic Frost, Cold Lake. That's an infamous one. Stone Temple Pilots, Purple. Yeah, it doesn't give off much of a message. Let's see, we got No Mean City here. Nazareth have a few as well. Yeah, Nazareth have some pretty heavy looking album covers on light albums, that's for sure. Yeah, BOC Club Ninja. Ashley brings up Keith Moon, Two Sides of the Moon. We got Force Set Me Free, Pink Floyd, Adam Hart Mother. All right, so my first choice is Tough Darts. This album here, I remember getting this thinking it was going to be awesome punk. The guy in the middle there, he's got gold teeth. On the back, he's like got, cigarette smoke coming out of his mouth. It looks like a really rocking album. This album's known for All for the Love of Rock and Roll showing up on with Ram Jam on their first album, and then it kind of getting semi Led Zeppelin style taken by Kiss for a song later on, either on Monster or Sonic Boom. I don't know, but anyways, I got this, and it's got song titles on here. I remember looking at this as a kid. Nuclear Waste, Here Comes Trouble, She's Dead, Rats, Fun City, Head Over Heels, Slash. My guitar lies bleeding in my arms. But it was just kind of like goofy 60s retro New York rock and roll. It just wasn't that good. And it reminds me, I might even got that on the same trip that I got Thunder Train from Boston with Mock Bell. This album looked totally heavy. I remember getting this as a kid. White vinyl, 1977. And it's same thing. It was just kind of like goofy retro, where we're kind of Jonathan Richman, New York Dolls, a little heavy. New York City, it's funny. New York City is just not known. New York, weirdly, as such a massive city, is not known as a rock and roll mecca. And it's definitely not known as a hard rock mecca anyway. So take that for what it is. I wanted to mention this, though, because I was going to include a Clash album for the same reason as Jamie's. So I'll bring this up as in tribute to Jamie. This looks like a very punk rock looking album cover. And they're even less punk rock on this than they are on London Calling. And they're not very punk rock on that as well. But that was just an aside. My second one, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, Live Bullet. I just remember as a kid always seeing these Bob Seger albums going, it's got to be heavy with that logo like that. I know I've talked about these before, but I brought out even Nine Tonight, which looks even heavier. Now he's got gold instead of silver here. And look at the back, they're just rocking out. So you go and you stare at that $6.99 for a double album in 1970, whatever. I guess this is 88 at this point, right? The first one and any of those Bob Segers, and you think it's going to be heavy, and it sounds like the Tough Darts and Thunder Train. So that was pretty.
Second favorite live album of all time, Live Bullet.
Oh,
is it? Wow.
Cool. And my third choice is Generation X. I know I've poked fun at this one before as well, but this was a big disappointment because it looks so punk and so hot and sweaty and like this is going to absolutely rock. The name of the band's Generation X, and it was it sounds like Bob Seger, Thunder Train, and Tough Darts
all together.
Well, that's incorrect. That all together in one place.
It does look punk, but it's
sort of like the funny thing where Piper is less heavy than Billy Squier solo. Well, Generation X is less heavy than Billy Idol solo. Kind of weird.
And what do you call Bob Seger? Pub rock, or what do you call it?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't know. It's just like, I
heard you call it something before.
But I mean, it's just kind of old time retro rock and roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just Buffalo Burger rock. I sometimes call Ram Jam that. But anyways, what do we got here? We've got.
I disagree with everything.
Okay.
Everything you said, I disagree.
Your turn is next, so you could say so. So let's see. King's X Dogman is mentioned here. Scorpions Animal Magnetism looks like a yacht rock album. Yeah, it's somewhat, I suppose. Steely Dan, take your pick. Yeah. They don't say anything to you, the Steely Dan covers, right? Cheap Trick Busted. We've got Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Black Moon. Has anyone mentioned Molly Hatchet? Yes. All right, over to Australia and Peter.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my first pick is a band called Mammoth, not the Wolfgang Van Halen Mammoth, but John McCoy from the Gillan Band. So you look at this album cover and you think, it's going to be pretty muscular, pretty beefy, but it's AOR, it's melodic rock. And I think they've called the band Mammoth because they're big blokes. They're all beefy. And the sound is big, but the singer sounds like a cross between John Parr and Steve Perry. It's very AOR. It's very melodic rock. It's not what you expect the album cover to sound like something muscular and heavy and hard rock. So Mammoth, not a bad album, but very more in the melodic AOR type of rock and roll. Next one is Whitesnake Trouble. So I've always, when you look at the album cover, you think, oh, this is going to be very muscular. It's got David Coverdale. It's going to be hard rock. But it's kind of muted. And I don't know if it's the fault of Martin Birch, which is, he's a bit hit and miss on his production with Whitesnake, or maybe it's the drumming of Dave Dahl, who hasn't got that pacey crunch. But this album it's kind of muted. It's bluesy, but it doesn't have the muscular aggression that you would look at the album cover and go, wow, this it's like coming at me, and I need to play it. And it's going to be hard, crunchy rock and roll. I like it, but it's just a little bit muted and doesn't correspond with the album cover per se. Next one, going into pop, is Lady Gaga.
I hope I'm picking the right cover. There's multiple covers of this.
No, spot on. Born This Way. Well, this is somebody that's touching upon heavy metal but isn't, even though she's got a song on the album called Heavy Metal Lover. You've seen her on a lot of social media. She does like her Priest and Iron Maiden, so that's a big tick. But this album is electro pop. But if you looked at the album cover, you'd go, shit, this looks like heavy metal. This has got there's going to be a bit of crunch, and it's something completely different. So, full marks that she's dabbling in that area, but not quite there. Born This Way, Lady Gaga, electro pop, fair and square.
I think that cover's absolutely hideous, though. I thought when it came out, I thought, what? Really?
It's, it doesn't sort of flow, does it?
It looks like an early 80s girl group metal album cover.
Does. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just bad.
It sold a ton of records.
If the Plasmatics had money, they'd have an album like that.
Yeah, the Plasmatics covers look way better than this.
Yeah, that looks
good. To have a chainsaw for wheels.
I like the Plasmatics album covers.
Just checking in the comments, we've got a mention for Kiss Carnival of Souls. Yeah, Kiss playing grunge. I suppose it looks like it sounds more or less. Let's see. Thunder, the Thrill of It All. Cover looks like something from the 60s or 70s. We got Anthrax Stomp 442. So that's a later Storm Thorgerson when Hypnosis is broken up, and it looks like It looks like a Pink Floyd album cover, basically, right? So that's pretty weird. Yeah, Bob Seger, Wedding Reception Rock. There you go, says DC Tune Time.
Yeah.
That's
one song.
Yeah, Masters of Reality, man, I love that album so much. Beach Boys Surfs Up. Yeah, I remember that looked much kind of heavier than it was, right? I think that's the one. Or no, there's a different Beach Boys that looks pretty heavy. Black Sabbath Paranoid. Sabotage. Yeah, that's a good one. That makes sense. Demon Night of the Demon. Yep. A little AOR and light, and it looks totally heavy. Absolutely true. Big Star. Third Sisters Lovers. King's X Dogman. All right, over to Grant.
Cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is low-hanging fruit because, well, you saw the graphics, and I'm going to use this to my advantage. So I have to go with Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell. And now we've seen multiple shows that have probably brought this up, but this looks way heavier than it is.
Yeah.
Amazing. I think the cover's great, but it doesn't match the music. This is a poster child for that. But it is what it is, and it sold a lot of records, so I'm good with that.
And how about that band name with that cover? That's pretty incongruous.
But look at the Meatloaf font. It looks kind of heavy and masculine, and man, it could be a really heavy band. But
it's definitely a very heavy band, but for the wrong reasons.
Right, exactly. All right, cool. All right, this one. Now, if everybody has a certain sound or a certain, I don't know, if you look at the album covers from this artist, this does not fit in with any of it. And when I listen to this record, it does sound like this artist. It doesn't really pop out. I kind of like it. This album didn't sell when it came out, but I'm going to go with Alice Cooper Dada, because Alice isn't on the front. It's artsy. I'm not sure, but when you listen to the record, it just sounds like an Alice Cooper record to me. Bob Ezrin's producing it, but it doesn't. I could see why it wouldn't sell. It doesn't resonate with me at all. I don't know. It doesn't match the music by any means. It's not creepy. It's not scary. It's not Alice Cooper, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Well, but I never saw anybody mention this. Of course, hardly anybody knows this record. So there you go. Now, this is another record. And I know everybody in the chat, when you were this age, you were a kid and this album came out, you bought this record and you were all disappointed because you thought it was going to be something that you expected. Damn it. We're going to go with Peter Criss's solo album, 1978. And everyone on this panel and everybody in the chat knows this was a disappointment. And this did not match what you thought it was going to come at you.
That's the pick of the day so far.
But it's true. He's like, where's all the rock and roll? Where's the heaviness? No heaviness.
Who's got the heaviest voice in that band, right? It's
Peter
Peter,
Criss,
right?
best voice in the band. You can quote me on that. And what?
Yeah.
I mean, I get that he's doing what he likes to do. That's fine.
Yeah.
But,
And what do drummers like to do? They like to rock out, right?
Right.
Drummers generally are rockers in a band.
Peter.
Yeah.
Oh boy, he has a hell of a voice. I'll give him that. So there you go. There are my three.
Cool. Over to Jamie.
All right. I talked about this before, but I wanted to pick this one for Grant, Surf's Up by the Beach Boys, because if you ask me, the cover looks like a proto-metal band from 1970.
That's right. That was the one. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be a heavy band you never heard of, not the Beach Boys. But I picked this one, even though I talked about it before, because I bought my first Beach Boys album. And I probably wouldn't have bought one if it wasn't for me being on this show. I bought this, but it's on a double thing called, what is it called? Field Flows.
Oh, yeah.
It's the sessions of this and Sunflower. So it has the full album of Sunflower and this album with a lot of bonus things. I wish it had the album covers somewhere, but it doesn't. The album is a little weird and a little darker, but it's not that dark and not that weird. So it's still the Beach Boys. I do enjoy it much more than Sunflower. I think Surf's Up is
really
damn good.
Some people do. I like Sunflower better, but that's
and
awesome.
I just ordered Pet Sounds. I never owned Pet Sounds, so that will be here this week.
Look at this.
I'm going.
But I think the reason they used that cover is because they started Brothers Records. You know, when they did Smiley Smile in 67 and they had their own label that Capitol distributed and it had the Native American on the horse. So I think that has something to do with it. But isn't this like a renowned work that they've used? I don't know who the artist was on this, but
I don't know. But it says Surf's Up, but everybody's looking down like it's a bad thing.
Yeah. It looks dark out. I wouldn't go out in that surf. So
this next one is a death metal band called Blood Incantation. And I think I brought this up a long time ago. They released an album a couple years ago, Time Wave Zero. And you look at the logo. That's what I brought it up with bad logos or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's going to be a death metal album with some spaciness to it. And you read the hype sticker and experience the new EP of cosmic, cinematic, and epic dark analog psychedelia. And it has a warning here. What the hell is a warning say? Excuse me while I bleach myself out. It is not recommended to operate a vehicle or heavy machinery while under the influence of this analog recording. Travelers are hereby advised to remain seated throughout the complete duration of this recorded program. And you're like, this is going to be intense, man. Wow. Stay seated. Death metal spacey. It's awful. It's bad Philip Glass. Bad Philip Glass. Wow. It starts off with this just sounds. It sounds like a hum. If a keyboard is just humming. Like when you watch a sci-fi movie and they just got on the planet for the first time and they're not sure what's up. That's the music in the background. And that's it for 40 minutes. It'd be nice if some strings came in like a guitar. Nothing. Just for 40 minutes. Don't operate machinery because you might fall asleep on the job.
It has to be a joke of some sort. It has to be a joke. With that logo? Come on. It has to be.
I think there should be a warning about reading that logo.
They have a little bit of a sitar strumming, but nothing, no rhythm at all. No a gong every once in a while. No percussion though.
Wow.
It's hard to get through. I got through it once. All right. Neil Diamond. I think I brought this one up before too. Hot August night. But here's the story with this one, other than him holding a invisible bag of potatoes. Growing up, people my age, guys my age, girls my age, your mom either listened to, Johnny Mathis was in the house or Barry Manilow. My house was a Neil Diamond house. Whew, at least he rocks a little bit. But he doesn't rock this hard because right here, he looks like a rock god, kind of like a Robert Plant type figure. And my mom she had a lot of Neil Diamond, but she never owned this one. So when I was a kid, I was like, Mom, why don't you have this one? Because it's like too heavy rock for you? Because this must have been like his hard rock period that my mom avoided. No, it's just a Neil Diamond record. I mean, as Crunchy Granola is a stupid name for a song, but it kind of rocks. But then you got You're So Sweet, which is, like a country song, and Porcupine Pie. And it's a Neil Diamond album. Soggy Pretzels. Neil Diamond. It's not anything too heavy. I do love my Neil Diamond though. 1, 2, and was that 3?
That was 3.
2, 3. Yeah, 4 more after that.
3. All right, let me just see what we've got over here. D Rocker has brought up. Well, actually, you're going to see some REO Speedwagon in a minute, but he brought up you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. We've got Deep Purple Slaves and Masters. Yeah, it doesn't say much of anything, but none of them do really. You think a House of Blue Light or Perfect Strangers or Perfect Wheelchairs, as they called it way back in 1984. Can you believe Kerrang, I think it was calling that album Perfect Wheelchairs, and they're still around 40 years later. Let's see. Hot Rats looks like an alternate cover for the Black Sabbath debut. that's a good one. Deep Purple in Rock with the Mount Everest. Yeah, it's just this is an old timey Americana. Yeah, good point, Matthew Phillips. Let's see. We've got Budgie, Blind Faith, both covers. Says our good buddy Rand Kelly. Sammy Hagar, Standing Hampton. Yeah, that looks a way more artsy than that album sounds. That's for sure. Rand brings up Presence, the Inscrutable Presence. We've got Heaps of Bominog. Yeah, that's a good choice. Budgie, Impeccable, doesn't really say much. Coverdale Page looks like your standard 90s design at that point, right? Kind of like half Storm Thorgerson, half Hugh Syme. Although maybe it even is Hugh Syme. I don't remember. Ian Gillan Band, Scarabus. Yeah, that's a great point, Rand. That looked like a really heavy Ian Gillan album. Anyways, yes, going for the one. Tornado, Calling All Stations. Over to Todd.
All right.
Okay. I almost picked House of Blue Light, but I couldn't quite sell myself on it because I was like, oh, maybe. Did I think it is a good choice. Anyway, my next 3 are kind of, I have to apologize. They're kind of quirky. They're kind of outside of the Contrarians wheelhouse. So I promise I'll get back on track after these 3. But my first one is Bare Naked Ladies' second album, Maybe You Should Drive. Now, this is a really strange album cover, right? 2 older gentlemen, one's on a tricycle. This record is pretty sophisticated, and it's got their original keyboardist Andee Cragen, who actually left to get a non-music career, is a pretty accomplished jazz pianist, and so this album is pretty jazzy. It's pretty grown up. I think. It's a little bit wacky because it's them, but why that's not the cover, I'm not quite sure, because I think that would have been a lot better. But this cover has always kind of irked me a little bit. My next choice, this one actually I think sounds like Grant brought up Dada. This one sort of looks like that. This is they might be Giants Nanobots, and I guess it kind of counts as being a good album cover for them because it's weird, and all their albums are kind of weird, and this is definitely weird. But it's like a kind of an old timey painting of a woman, and there's a cross section of it that I'm not sure whether that's lace or armor or whether it's like the inside of somebody's body. I don't know what that is, but it's unsettling for sure. But this is a pretty fun album. I mean, the first song is called You're on Fire. There's a song called Nanobots. and circular karate chop, and it's pretty fun, but it just doesn't really look very fun.
Right.
Yeah, but she could have fit right in on that Dada album.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it. And then the next one, and this is another cover.
I keep racking my brain. What is the Rat album cover that looks like Dada and this They Might Be Giants? The one just before Dancing Undercover. What the heck is that called again?
Before Dancing Undercover?
Yeah. Brain is a terrible
Not
thing.
in
Reach
Station.
for the Sky. Reach for the
Yes.
Sky.
Oh, yeah, that
Yes,
too.
it does.
And of course, there's the Def Leppard retroactive that's got the skull thing, like the Dada thing too, right? That famous, Trump oil, or whatever it's called, right? So, anyway, sorry. Go back to
That's
that.
okay. So this album right here, this cover has always bothered me. Elvis Costello, When I Was Cruel. This was Elvis Costello had gotten out of his period where he was collaborating with Burt Bacharach, and he made this pretty noisy rock album where he's not singing with any vibrato. He's using his kind of rough, heavy rock and roll voice. And this album is really kind of chaotic and noisy. And I'm not really sure why they went with this picture of an amusement park ride, but it doesn't fit at all. It kind of looks good because I like the font and the design of it's okay, but yeah, I'm not sure why they went with that.
Nice. Okay, my next choice is REO Speedwagon. I know I picked on this band before. Let's go with You Get What You Play For. Big rockin' REO Speedwagon looking album. Again, you got that $6.99 in hand down at Coos TV in Trail. You're looking at this double. You look at the back. Oh yeah, this is absolutely gonna rock. No, it's Midwest rock. I would love to do a Midwest rock show at some point because that whole thing just baffles me, right? But it's just goofy Bob Seger rock and roll. Like I say, Sammy Hagar, Bob Seger, Tough Darts, Thunder Train, Midwest
Golden
rock.
Country rocks, man. I don't know what to tell
And
you. That's
Riding the Storm out on there.
I don't know. Nothing by these guys rocks. And I just took this one out just because, again, I'm a sucker for the live shots. It makes these bands look heavy. To me, this looks like April Wine Live or Iron Butterfly Inagata Davida. But there they are rocking up. But we all know there are Pink Floyd live shots that look like that too, that you think they look like a heavy band, and they never do. So my next choice is Pete Townsend, All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes, which is one of my top 10 albums of all time. Love it to death. But it is not an 80s shred album on a Flying V. It's not a guitar-y album really much at all. It's Pete with a whole bunch of amazing band players making this great masterpiece that is super high fidelity. So it feels like a band album number one. It doesn't feel like a Flying V album. Pete doesn't feel like a Flying V guy, and Pete doesn't feel like a double neck guy either. And this is kind of like he's looking glum. It's a very glum album, that's for sure. But I don't know, just something about this does not. This is like too flippant for one of the most serious, super interesting. I mean, check our Contrarians episode where we've got Ralph Chapman talking about all this. It's a master oration, that whole episode. But yeah, that does not. Yeah, nothing about that looks like Pete or that album to me. And my last choice is Jethro Tull, Broadsword and the Beast. So. Yeah. This one is notorious in Jethro Tull circles for having this amazingly, this is going to be folk on 120%, metal on 120%, folklore, mysticism, the occult, Broadsword and the Beast. It's got the ruins going around it like the Aussie Live album. It's got this crazy evil looking, troll, Ian Anderson kind of thing. And it's a really tepid, sort of mellow, keyboardy, doesn't know if it wants to be a part of the 80s or the 70s, a bit new, not even new wavy, but just keyboardy, right? Modern sort of album. It does not at all sound like, his most extreme album cover, essentially. And those are all my choices. Let me just, before we go over to Peter, let's see what we've got. Yeah, another mention for Abominog. Actually, let's see, what do we got here? Rand mentions Emerson, Lake and Palmer in the hot seat. Let's see, Beck, Mellow Gold, Aerosmith Rock in a Hard Place. Yeah, it doesn't do much for me or say much. Melvin Stoner Witch. Yeah, you get these kind of just really simple artistic covers that don't really say much. Jaguar this time, it's a good point. Yeah, it doesn't really say much. Joe Walsh, you can't argue with a Sick Mind. Mirrorball. Let's see, Nazareth Love Hurts, Mount Rushmore again, Helmet Betty, yeah. Kind of looking like a grunge album essentially, and it kind of fits in that, I guess, as well.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Measures looks like a classical album. Yeah, good point. Sitting there looking like classical players, right? Duke Jupiter, The Line of Your Fire, looks like a comic book. David Lee Roth, A Little Ain't Enough. Yeah, a little artsy for a party album, I suppose. Supertramp Breakfast in America. Looks like it might sound like Ethel Merman. That's a good point. It's true. Absolutely true. Broadsword looks like a Magnum cover. Yeah, we just lost Tony Clarkin, right? Rush Caress of Steel looks like a folk rock album. All right, over to Peter.
Okay, well, I'm going to put out a shout to Todd Evans. This is one of his all-time favorite albums, and this is Missing Persons, Rhyme and Reason.
I wanted to pick it, but you got to it first.
So we've got Dale Bozio on the cover, and it looks like she, if you looked at the cover, you think, oh, she's in Barbara Streisand or Dionne Warwick territory. But the album per se is new wave, it's synth, and there's no acoustic piano anywhere on the album, or very minimal.
Peter, it looks like another frame from the Lady Gaga photo shoot, right?
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
She is actually an inspiration of Lady Gaga. Gaga has...
I won't mention what came first.
Yeah. So that's the band behind with Terry on drums. And that's another thing about there's a lack of Terry Bozio acoustic drum muscle on this album, which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, I know. Shout out to you, Top. Missing Persons, Rhyme and Reason. The next one I'm going to... Yeah, it is.
Someone's backing up.
Next
Look
one...
out.
Next one I'm going to pick is Tin Machine with David Bowie. So when you see guys in suits, you think the album's going to be very sober, very sort of, timid. You wouldn't expect this album to be post-punk, noisy, improvisational rock and roll, where they're just figuring out the songs and just, banging out songs. So that really sums up the career of David Bowie. You look at the album cover, but what it sounds is usually at right angles, completely different. But Tin Machine, I've grown to love this album. Didn't like it when I first heard it, but over time, I love it to bits. And this is definitely one where you look at them, they're all very dapper, but it does not match the music in any shape or form. There you go.
I barely liked that album when it came out, and I've grown to hate it. So,
Oh,
Wow.
my goodness! How
Honor to
many
God
albums?
was such a fiery single, man.
I love it.
Hey,
Keep
Peter.
on keeping on, Martin.
Hey, Peter, how many different album covers did they have of that? Because when I was looking for album, the one that I'm showing is totally, they have a different lineup. I just don't know. Because look, yours is a different cover.
Yeah, slightly different, isn't it?
Wow, I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
didn't
went and
realize
looked, and
that.
there are different ones. There must be 4 different ones, I'm assuming.
I'll
I
get
don't
my,
know.
my CD.
Oh,
And Tin Machine 2 doesn't look like the same band either, right? It's very artsy looking, and it doesn't sound like this bash it out, really raw rock and roll thing.
figuring it out type music.
I'm going to have to listen to it again. I haven't listened to it in years.
The second one might be better, in my opinion. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
To me, they just sounded like they were just trying to be, cranky and ugly for cranky and ugly's sake.
Fair enough.
It looks like that video for Yes, Leave It. And I wonder if there's a Tin Machine cover where they're upside down. That would be cool.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. The next pick for me is New Zealand pop band Dragon. So this album cover, when you look at it, looks, metal, hard rock. What's behind this? But the band actually looks like this. And they're a bit of an institution in Australia. So they're very much in the pop, yacht rock, American-orientated rock, but nothing like the album cover. I mean, that looks like a sister to one of the Thin Lizzy albums, Chinatown. Doesn't look anything like the pop material that they were pumping out in Australia. So that's my pick, Dragon from 1978.
Excellent.
Nice.
Good.
Is that 3?
Yeah.
That is 3.
Okay. Let's just see what we else got. Let's see. Marlon's got Gary Newman, Assassin. Nice one. Let's see. George Harrison, 33 1/3. Let's see. We've got Beach Boys Surfs Up mentioned again. Matthew Phillips, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Yeah, Brain Salad Surgery is a great pick, right? That looks so evil and metal, right? Absolutely. Yeah. All right, over to Grant.
All right, here we go. Okay, this I just have to laugh because this album looks so heavy, but it's not. It's a pop record. Sold a lot of records. I'm going to go with Third Eye Blind from 1997. But you know what? This looks heavy, right? Like, what is going on here? I don't know, but it looks threatening to me. But I don't know. They had several hits off of this record. I don't think they ever achieved this level ever again. But good record if you're into that. The cover does not match it though. My next pick is this is great. If anybody knows the band Ween, kind of cross between I'm not even
they do
cross
everything.
between everything. Zappa, They Might Be Giants. I'm just trying to pull things in. I don't know. Captain Beefheart. But this is
Weird Al
12
Yankovic.
Golden Greats from 1996. Now you're looking at this and you're going, my goodness gracious. This is a country cowboy record. Yeah, they're playing
really
country
well
on it, but but it's turned on its head. I'll give it that. It's a Ween album, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out and listen to it for yourself. But
Marty Robbins.
Yeah. I just thought we're just going to play some country, but going a little out there. All right, my next choice. I don't know really what to say about this, but I couldn't find any information about it. Well, I own it, but it just kind of popped into my head. But I have never seen anybody mention this. The band Eels, Daisies of the Galaxy from 1999. This is not a kid's record from the 40s or 50s. This is alternative rock.
Yeah.
But they had other covers that are kind of like this. But if you're looking for a kid's record from the 50s, this is not one of them. But it's a good record. Eels are great.
Yeah. It's kind of disturbing. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah. I think all of their covers are disturbing in all different ways.
Yeah,
I guess that's the point.
Yeah, that guy had a really traumatic life too, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen like a documentary in his family. I don't know. He had a weird upbringing, I think.
I think that would scare kids.
Yeah.
It might. But it does. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's my third one, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Over to Jamie for your final 4.
All right. Somebody picked my next pick. Demon. Night of the Demon. I found out about this record about 4 years ago on YouTube, and the algorithm it threw my way. I was like, oh, this is going to be like maybe Venom or something, early like thrashy stuff. And then it starts off with Rise, and you got the scary sound effects going on. I waited for that, and then it just goes into like AOR-ish metal. You know what it reminds me of? This album, Down to Earth. This kind of metal-ish, hard rocky thing. But I mean, it's good. I bought it, but it's not what you expect. And because someone picked that, I'm going to throw in First Audio Slave record. It kind of looks like a Hypnosis proggy record, not a whatever you want to call this.
That cover reminds me of a Killers album cover too. Or maybe
it's Storm Thorgerson again. I mean, it looks very much like Stomp 442, of course, too, right?
Yeah, that too.
But boy, it reminds me of something else.
All right, this next one I have to be careful. I picked Twin Temple God is Dead, but their first album bring you the signature sound of satanic doo-wop, but it's very evil. Here you have the new one where you got two people kissing, about to kiss, blood all over their face, church is burning, God is dead. This one, a bare naked woman with her breast showing, I'm not showing that, has a goat's head on, and blood's all over her, and she's dressed in a black cape. But it sounds like Brenda Lee with a little bit of doo-wop. It sounds like music your mom listened to when you were growing up, you know, in the car. My mom, if I didn't tell her what the lyrics were about, she'd probably think, oh, that's a nice record. But there's the song titles are called like Let's All Have an Orgy. And, you know, the devil didn't make me, Lucifer, my love, where she's making love to Lucifer. And I hear the concerts are crazy. People are, it's not a mosh pit as much as a sex pit. That's what I heard. They have a song called Be a Slut.
Nice Christian album, I see.
Let's have a satanic orgy. I'm sorry.
Wow, that's wild.
So
Don't try this at home, folks.
Always thank Jamie for bringing the conversation down.
Oh, I thought I brought it up.
Oh, well, it makes it interesting.
In a few ways.
Yeah, that was a shock when I heard what the music sounded like.
Up and then down.
Up and down.
Yeah.
The next one I'm going with, you know, back in 1993, you didn't have YouTube or anything where you could sample a record. And I saw Cypress Hill Black Sunday at the record stores for months. And I was like, this must be a metal band that slipped through the cracks. And I'm not hearing anything about them. If you're not going to put up the album cover, there you go. Like, this has to be a metal album, right?
Yeah.
And then I found out they were a rap band. I said, get the hell out of here. You know, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go slap down my $12 and see what this is all about. And I got to tell you, we used to get stoned to this album a lot. We loved it. I mean, maybe it was partly because of the album cover, but they really got a following with heavy rock fans, and they would be on Lollapalooza next to the rock bands. But I mean, I Want to Get High and Cock the Hammer, It's Time for Action. Hits from the Bong. Oh, we used to do Hits from the Bong, the Hits from the Bong. But yeah, I did not know it was a rap album for the longest time. It's maybe the only rap album I listened to all the way through.
What is the Cypress Hill song that the big Cypress Hill
Insane in the Membrane?
Yeah, Insane in the Membrane. Yeah.
That's not on this one, is it?
Yeah, it is.
It's on this one? Okay.
Yeah, it's on that one.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Deep grooves.
I like the whole album.
Deep grooves.
Deep
All
grooves.
right.
All right, cool.
So, Peter brought up Lady Gaga. I'm going to bring up Taylor Swift. Bunch of old men going to be young and hip today.
First time on the Contrarians, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm bringing up this album. Now, I don't own it. I don't own any Taylor Swift. But when this came out, Bradley over on Banger TV, what's his last name? Zordragger. Bradley Zordragger. He posted this on Facebook, and he was like, did Taylor Swift go black metal? And I saw the album cover, and then I saw the name of the album, Folklore. Sounds like folk metal or black metal, and it looks like a black metal album. I said, my God, I got to go listen to this Taylor Swift album. What is she doing? So I listened to it, and yeah, it's moody, a little bit. It's not upbeat. It's not going to get you on the dance floor or anything, but it's a Taylor Swift album, for crying out loud. No big surprises. And I kind of had a glimmer of hope. Maybe she was experimenting with a little bit of heavy rock in her music, but no, it wasn't there. But I thought maybe it'd be there for a second. So yeah, Taylor Swift. And I was watching Rick Beato yesterday talk about the fall of rock music, and they brought up Taylor Swift. They brought up something very interesting. The biggest cult artist of all time, because all of you guys might be in this category where you said, I've never heard a Taylor Swift song in my life.
I haven't.
Exactly, right? But she's the biggest star right now.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody ever said that about the Beatles. Everybody knew at least one Beatles song. Everybody knows at least one Aerosmith song. There are millions of guys like us who are like, other than me listening to this album real quick, I don't know a Taylor Swift song.
I've got 1989. I like it. I know it. So, but I wouldn't buy every album. But.
And he's secure with himself, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I want to say, when I was looking for there's about 5 or 6 different album covers for this record. I just
there is
this one. I hope this was the right one.
I didn't. I didn't know. I knew she did that with different vinyl colors, so all those girls can buy 16 versions of the same album. But I didn't know she did it with covers.
She's a smart businesswoman. Whoever represents her or whatever her machine.
She writes her damn songs. She sings without auto-tune. In this day and age, 2 thumbs up for me. It's sad. I'm sad that the bar is that low.
Yeah,
We'll give her some. There we go. There you go.
Does that only work for you, Grant?
Well, it works if you have a Mac.
Oh, okay. Because I tried it doesn't work.
No. Sorry to hear that. It should
We
work.
just have the close button, Todd, or the mute button.
Right.
It should work on yours. I'll show you how to do it. All right. Now I feel like we've gotten off a tangent. Oh, okay. That was your last one. All right, Martin, are there anything in the chat?
Let's see what we've got. We've got Randus mentioned Utopia. Oops, wrong planet. I mean, all the Utopias.
Yeah.
All the Utopias basically don't look like Utopia sounding albums, right? Max Webster, High Class and Borrowed Shoes. That's a great choice. Really silly looking cover, but a masterpiece of an album. Todd Rundgren a cappella. Yeah, absolutely. That's an odd one too. Let's see. The Ghost album covers look really metal. Triumph, The Sport of Kings. John Lennon, The Wedding album. What is that? Ashley, Demon, more Body Count, Ice-T playing hard rock, AC/DC Dirty Deeds. Yeah, that's like a crappy Hypnosis album cover. Hypnosis and AC/DC don't really go together. Rush Signals, Thin Lizzy, Bad Reputation, just a really bad album cover. Technical Ecstasy, Black Sabbath. I don't know. That one to me always kind of went together. I don't know why. Alice Cooper, Pretty's for You. Yeah, that's a pretty artsy looking cover for what they're doing there as well. So Queen, Sheer Heart Attack, Teenage Fan Club 13. Over to Todd.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start out with this one. Now, I like this cover. It's a pretty cool cover. REM, New Adventures in Hi-Fi. But you think it's going to be like Joshua Tree or something like that, like this really inspiring music because there's this moody landscape. But it's got a total glam rock song with the Wake Up Bomb. It's got there's a song on here called Leave that's this really noisy song with this repeated synth in it that was recorded at the Omni in Atlanta, which had the worst acoustics ever. It's been torn down. And when I got this album, I was like, wow, somebody recorded a song at the Omni on purpose. But I don't know how an album that's recorded at sound checks and is kind of all over the place, it gets a cover like this. But there are a couple of songs that maybe sound like this, but not many of them.
Todd, when you picked that and I saw that and based on what we were talking about, the first thing that I thought of was Joshua Tree.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah,
I think it's a great looking cover. I don't think it matches that record.
But I think Joshua Tree fits the music on
it
that
does.
record.
Yeah.
This no does not.
I agree. This is probably my thinnest pick. I picked this one. This is The Pineapple Thief. Someone Here Is Missing. And it doesn't have the name of the band on it or the name of the album. It's just this person who's covered in Post-it notes. And it's a pretty rockin' album. I mean, it's up tempo for most of it. And I mean, I kind of had second thoughts because I looked at the back cover and I was like, well, that kind of looks kind of angsty. There's a guy covered up in Post-it notes and stuff. But it's a really lively record, and this cover I don't think makes it look so much like that. But I'm sure somebody could probably argue that and tell me that it actually does. This one right here, I picked Big Generator, and I should have had the CD here too, but Grant picked the CD.
Right, we got it covered.
You could argue that this does sound like the album. I mean, you could argue the song Big Generator sounds like this, but most of it, I mean, Holy Lamb Song for Harmonic Convergence sounds like it should have a Roger Dean cover. There's a song, is it Finalize or I'm Running or both? They were kind of acoustic based, and this just looks like it's all drum machine, high tech, and the whole album really isn't that way.
Good choice. Yeah.
And then my next one, this might be controversial, but this is Styx Pieces of 8. This is a Hypnosis cover. Styx is kind of a prog or prog adjacent band, and I actually think that the inside would have been a better cover. But I don't really think this record sounds like this, because I mean, you've got The Great White Hope, you've got I'm Okay, which is kind of like a feel good anthem. Sing for the Days, kind of folky, and then you got Blue Collar Man, and Queen of Spades, Renegade. I mean, Queen of Spades. I mean, it's got a queen, female, I suppose. But this record is not really from a female perspective, and it's not really predominantly about women. I mean, you've got Alan Parsons' Eve, which kind of looks like this cover, which is actually a bunch of songs that are from a woman's perspective, and it's got female vocals on it. That kind of makes sense. I don't think this makes much sense. So
it looks like a Grace Slick solo album.
It does. Yeah. So
the band didn't like that cover.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
All right, is that 4?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, all right. So my final 4, I'm going to start with Johnny Moped, Psychedelic. I've still got my shrink wrap on it, although it's open. But the interesting thing about this one, and why I wanted to bring it up, is that it's got this really classy type at the top, says Psychedelic. It's one guy, Johnny Moped. It sounds a little new wavy, but I was surprised that this is actually a pretty rock and punk album. And I missed it at the time in the old days because of this album cover. I remember seeing this and just kind of being like, it's kind of like probably a slick new wavy semi-punk thing. The guys on the back look, there's Johnny looking quite punky. Even on the front, he's got a Motorhead Born to Lose button on, right? But the other guys are looking a little pub rocky, right? But it is quite heavy. The first track's called VD Boiler. Then we got Panic Button, Little Queenie, Maniac, Darling, Let's Have Another Baby, Groovy Ruby, 3D Time, Wee Wee, Make Trouble, Wild Breed, Hellraiser, and Incendiary Device. This is a really good album. It's not crazy raw punky, but it's like a little bit punk with a little bit of new wave and a little bit of pub rock, but it is quite wild. And I wanted to pick that because this is one, like I say, that I missed during the old days that I would have liked in 1978. My next choice is the Buzzcocks with a different kind of tension. So again, this is a little bit like, looks like Yes, Big Generator, actually. And it's very incongruent with that band name. And it just looks really, really artsy. But as we all know, the Buzzcocks are amazing, scampering, cool, poppy punk, pretty heavy, pretty fast, all guitar, bass, and drums, always distortion pedal, right? The back cover looks completely artsy as well. And I thought, just for kicks, bring out the first one, because they'd been doing that since the early days, right? So, this does not look particularly punky either. Even the guys are pretty, they're all dressed kind of nicely for punks. And this is a very punk album. But yeah, so that is that choice. And in honor of Peter, we've got some Buffalo here. So I've got a Buffalo Mother's Choice. This is my favorite Buffalo albums are not the first two, it's the middle stuff. When you get into the later years like this, it's a little bit more country rock and hoedowny, just a little bit more retro and not as heavy metal. But it certainly doesn't look like that. I mean, that's obviously they're trying to be a little jokey with it. These are the nice reissues with the embossed. But yeah, they had this average rock and roller in the middle years. Well, actually, they're both kind of, neither of these are that heavy, actually. But that's such a great heavy album cover. It looks like the gods, nothing is sacred, or is nothing sacred, whatever it's called. But yeah, and it looks like the Lady Gaga, and it looks like the Boys, Too Wild to Tame. But yeah, this just sounds nothing like this. This is basically hard hitting, retro country rock sort of thing. You know what? Maybe it sounds even a little bit like Bob Seger, actually, come to think of it. Pub rock as well.
There's a theme tonight.
No, I know, it's pretty weird. And my final choice is X with See How We Are, which is just way too artsy looking for any X album. This one included. I mean, this is a pretty well recorded, poppy, accessible, kind of highfalutin X album, but it doesn't get that highfalutin. It's still pretty rocking, right? I'm Lost, and yeah, 4th of July. like I say, it's a commercial radio X album, but it's still a pretty rocking album, and it looks nothing like this, with the really nice type and lined up like that, and the back covers, these nice sepia tone things. Man, Tony Gilkinson, I saw these guys live as one of the greatest guitar performances I've ever seen when he was in the band. Saw these guys live in about 1988. Yeah, and just to just for kicks, because it was in the X section. This sounds too heavy for X. X does not sound like an incendiary, absolutely anarchic, hardcore band at all. But they definitely don't sound like that. But they do sound like that. That is such a great band shot, and that's exactly what X sounds like. So those are my last choices. Let's just go over to the comments quickly. We've got Led Zeppelin 3 and 4 mentions the Elder of Rock. We got Stones Goat Head Soup. Yeah, it doesn't really say much, but Stones are pretty artsy with their covers, right? New York Dolls covers completely different than the album in size, says Brian McFadden. Doobie Brothers, yeah, I mean the second New York Dolls kind of looks, I suppose, like it sounds. But Procol Harum Home says Bookhouse Boy. Let's see, Gigi Allen cover photo. Gillen Mr. Universe, yeah, looks like yacht rock, absolutely. It's a great choice. Buffalo Mother's Choice sounds like Rose Tattoo, says Ashley. I think it's mellower than Rose Tattoo, but anyways, yeah, they're in the same wheelhouse for sure. Loverboy's Debut, yes, Magnification. Pink Floyd, Momentary Lapse of Reeves, and that's the other one that looks like the Audio Slave, and Stump 442 is Pink Floyd Vision Bell, right? Let's see, Lighthouse Sweet Feeling. Yeah, all right, over to Peter.
Okay, well, I also chose a Meatloaf album, but I did, I think, the fourth album, Bad Attitude. So this goes with the theme that all their album covers look so much more muscular and heavy than they actually are. So this album sounds like Bruce Springsteen on steroids meets Billy Joel. It just does not match the album cover in any shape or form.
I feel like we're doing album lookalikes tonight as well.
Yeah.
Well,
it
there you go.
happens.
And a little bit of Bob Seger in this album too.
Sure.
I'll just continue the theme. Yeah. Next one, Silverchair, Australia's answer to Nirvana, Frog Stomp. Now look at this, lads. That doesn't look like a grunge album. It looks like the Wilderness Society. The Tree Frogs.
Yeah.
Enya. So you wouldn't imagine that this is like a grunge album. I don't think green is a color that you would associate with grunge or Tree Frogs. So this definitely does not sound like the music. And this was a huge hit in Australia, and I think it charted pretty high up in America as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. Next one is a band called Beach Fossils, Bunny, which came out last year. That was my number 2 album of the year. This is like shoegaze. So you look at the album cover and you think it's almost like the Eels. It's sort of like very childlike. You've got a little toy bunny, but the music itself is sort of like angular. There's a tonal tuning. It's got a little bit of darkness, and it's not kind of childlike in any shape or form. So if you looked at this album cover, the music is kind of different to what the album cover portrays. So that's my pick, Beach Fossils. And finishing up my suite of 4 is the English Britpop or rock band Blur with The Great Escape. Now you look at this album and you think, oh, it's a bit of a boy band. You wouldn't know if you listen to the album that it's like a British answer to the Kinks. So a lot of kitchen sink dramas, a lot of, sort of in the wheelhouse of, Oasis, Pulp, Suede, all those Britpop bands. But it just looks completely different to the album cover, which is about the rich and famous and, kind of like a Take That or one of those Boyzone bands. So Blur, The Great Escape.
Nice. Very cool.
That's
all right, over to Grant.
All right, now this has been mentioned in the chat throughout the evening, so everybody's thinking along the same lines. So I'm going to go with the Ghost. Pick any Ghost album. I love Ghost, but they look way heavier on the album cover than they are on the actual product. Ghost is more like a cross between Def Leppard and ABBA. So this doesn't look like Def Leppard or ABBA. So that's my other choice. My next choice is an album that's jazz fusion. It was one of those records that ended up in the cutout bins all the time. We're going back in time, ladies and gentlemen. We're going back to Madhouse from 1987, which is a Prince offshoot project with Eric Leeds, who was a saxophone player. This came out. This never sold for anything, but it's jazz fusion. This, to me, does not look like a jazz fusion record. Looks more maybe like a Jane Weedland solo album to me.
Or No Doubt.
Yeah.
Or No Doubt.
Mhm.
Is it a good album, Grant? I love those
don't
Prince
know.
offshoot bands. I've never seen that one before.
Well, I don't know if I've heard it. It's been years ago. They put out 2 and in the same year, and they actually recorded 2 more that were unreleased. So I don't know with the Prince estate. Heck, this might get a re-release. I don't know.
I'll have to track it down. Good one.
Yeah, Prince 1987. So we're talking Sign of the Times era. You know, he was pretty prolific then. And this is okay. My next one is, man, I don't know if this really counts, but I'm going to count it because you have to listen to the way I'm thinking about this. I'm going to go with the Times' first album. This goes right along with Prince because Prince played everything on this record. Morris Day played the drums on it. Prince sang the whole thing and they overdubbed Morris Day's voice. So you think this is a band record. It's not a band record. It's a Prince album masquerading around as a Time album. So, you know, you're not really getting what you're getting here. It's a great record. You like Prince, this is a must-have because it's funky. You like Dirty Mind, you'll like this.
So Prince's voice is on it, or Morris
No,
Day's voice is on
it
it?
was. Prince did the whole thing, and then Morris Day dropped the drums on it, and then they put Morris's voice on it. I think Prince is on it. You can hear him sing on it, backgrounds and stuff. It's a Prince album.
Neat.
Plain and simple, but it's a great record. So, okay. And this was also brought up how we talked about Todd Rundgren records. Utopia albums. Nothing ever appears that it should sound like that. And I'm going to go with Utopia Oblivion because you wouldn't think that this was a pop record, power pop. You would not think this by looking at this cover. But that's what it is. And it looks kind of heavy to me. It doesn't look uplifting. But considering where Utopia was in their career, they probably weren't all that happy anyway. So maybe that's what that reflects. I don't know.
I almost
Oblivion.
I almost picked Adventures in Utopia, but then I thought, well, the beginning of it with the beeping sounds a little bit like space, and that sort of looks a little bit like space, so I didn't pick it. But you can pick any of them.
But you brought that up when we were doing bad album covers.
Yeah.
Remember? And
yeah.
I do like, but you know what's funny about Adventures is that the photo's kind of stupid, but man, that Utopia logo and the graphics on it, the rest of the package is great. And the packaging here is fine too, but it just doesn't reflect the music by any means. Yeah, it is what it is.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there you go. That's the
very
last
nice.
one.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Just a quick mention here. We've got D Rockers brought up Montrose Warner Brothers Presents. Yeah, that is a very cool cover on that one. Let's see. Fountains of Wayne, Welcome Interstate Managers, Dead Kennedys, Bedtime for Democracy, Trillion. Yeah, Trillion looks sounds like Toto says Rand, but we know Rand's a wise music swami, so he's going to have good comments. Dead Milkmen, Big Lizard in Your Backyard. Yeah, there we go. All right, Grant, wrap it up. Hey, stick around, guys. I want to have a quick meeting after we're done.
Okay, cool.
Wrap her up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. I want to thank everybody in the chat for showing up tonight. My God, we went over. Usually we like to go just an hour, but we went over. We had a lot of people here tonight. Great discussion. Great. Just, you guys are all over it. So anyway, I want to thank Jamie, Todd, Martin, of course, Peter Kerr tonight. If you'd like to be on these panels, you can be on these panels. We have a Patreon you can join. A lot of great content on there, a lot of interaction. You can talk amongst everybody. We also have a Ko-fi. Buy us a cup of coffee or buy us a pint. We like that. We also like donations. We love money here on Contrarians because we do this out of the kindness of our hearts and because we love to talk music. So based on my spiel, oh yes, Todd Evans has the Contrarians t-shirt. We have merch down below if you want to get some merch. Get you a shirt, get you a sweatshirt, get you something.
Happy
you
birthday, Pat Benatar.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Happy
Pat
birthday.
Benatar, happy birthday. But get yourself something. All right, on that note, we will see you, and we will be back next Wednesday, and we don't know what we're talking about yet, but we will see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if we don't see you till then, have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.
See you later.